Think Different Nation is brought to you by InvestOut.net, where we connect homeowners who know that their homes could sell for more if renovated, with investors who are interested in adding that value at no cost to you. Once the home's renovated, you, as the homeowner, sell the home, and the investors make their profit from the increased value of the sale.
In the movie The Secret, I quoted Dr. Wernher von Braun, who's considered by many as the father of the space program. He said, the natural laws of this universe are so precise that we don't have any difficulty building a spaceship, sending people to the moon, and we can time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. He also said these laws must have been set by someone. And you know, it's strange. It's not that long ago when science and religion were really considered antagonistic. That's not so today.
Thank you for listening to Think Different Nation. I had an opportunity to speak just recently with Brian Ridgway. He's a special kind of guy, and you'll surely see. His special area is in helping people to obtain that personal freedom by getting rid of those self-help books and moving the stuff aside that's really been holding you back. Outside of his incredible hair, you'll see that Brian has an amazing sense of energy about him that just basically vibrates off the screen. So I want you to notice that right off the bat. But Brian's also had an opportunity to speak pretty much around the world to over 300,000 people, talking and helping them to, again, move their lives forward, getting away from those challenges that have always held you back and very quickly moving to the next level in what he calls, again, that level 5 technology. So introducing Brian Ridgway, who's available at briandridgway.com. Thank you. So how are you doing, sir? It's a pleasure to be able to connect with you.
Awesome. Same here. Doing well, man. Hope you are.
And you're in Hawaii, right?
Yep.
Okay. Beautiful. It's, watching looking at your website was very inspirational. It was, you have an energy that really is attractive. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be able to connect with you.
Yeah, same here. Always, man.
And so it's I'm kind of on my journey early on and trying to figure my way out. I think I kind of came up with my own product that I'm trying to present and just navigating through the whole space,
Yeah. During an interesting time, I might add.
Yeah, are you a Game of Thrones fan?
I haven't watched any TV or series for about 25 years. Not one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. So,
but almost everybody that I know has watched, or is like a fan of that show. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the greatest lines for me came out of it was chaos is a ladder. And it is exactly where we are right now. You can see the fact that those rungs on the ladder are building, but yet a lot of folks are not knowing how to navigate up, not knowing how to climb it. And that's a scary thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to, I'm pretty informal as far as discussion wise. I just wanted to kind of chat with you and get your observations, your insights on different things. You kind of know my slant. I basically believe that we are part of this evolutionary journey of man. And that when we first were bacteria, going back roughly 4.6 billion years ago, on to Homo sapien roughly 5.8 million years ago, we inherited instincts that propelled us forward to act in certain ways because we were all hardwired to possess those instincts. But yet when we come into our own form, while we inherit those tendencies, those inclinations, we also have inherited inclinations from our parents and our parents' parents, especially if they're in a space where it's very common to what we do. And so what I try to do is talk to people about identifying those, what I call instinctive advantages, which are those the ways they maneuver and operate, those tendencies that really propel them forward and help them to find their greatest gifts or skills. Yet also can be the difficult ones and the ones that really set them back, looking for both the positives and the negatives. Okay, so what I wanted to do hopefully is kind of get your feedback on a number of different things. I've been a big Napoleon Hill fan for a long time, and I've read a number of the different books coming out of that whole space. and I'm curious about some of the ways that they work. For example, coming from an environmental standpoint, I've always clashed at the thought of get. It's the power of attraction. And I might as well just even jump off at the first question. How do you manage the whole material side, or the tendency towards acquiring, when it comes to the law of attraction and the balance that's required within that space?
All right, so I will say, just to start with, basically everything that you have said, it's not that I disagree with any of it at all. And I have such a radically different perspective from which I'm viewing every one of those things, that it can make for a really interesting, like all over the place conversation. So personally, I focus above and beyond every one of those things, including attraction, including the law. Like, I had my Facebook group for the last 3.5 years was called Beyond the Law of Attraction.
Understand.
And we changed the name recently. So here's how I see it. Just to look at that part first. The law of attraction, the way that I see it, is that we were born and raised into different religions. Mm-hmm. And then we lived our lives within those religions. And then one day, millions of us gradually came to hear about this concept of the law of attraction. And so we said, oh, wait, I'm no longer religious. I'm spiritual, but not religious. But we didn't realize that we were trading in one religion for another one. We didn't know that the law of attraction was literally just another set of religious beliefs, as true and false as every other set of religious beliefs that has ever come to us. And so for someone, I see the law of attraction as a set of spiritual training wheels that are great to use for as short a time as humanly possible on the way to taking full responsibility. And so really oversimplifying and yet still capturing the essence of it is this. When I believe that I'm at the mercy of evolutionary forces and things outside of myself and all these things that are obvious and scientifically provable, when I believe that those are outside of me and I'm the product of them, right, I am at the mercy of them, and all I can do is try to figure out how to navigate them. And then when I find attraction, I go, oh wait, maybe I have more responsibility and power and effect than I ever thought I had.
Understand?
Yes. Well, I go all the way past that to all is one. Mm-hmm. There's one source of all, including the illusion of time, including the illusion of those 4.6 billion years. Because if time is an illusion, then 4.6 billion years and 12 seconds are equally illusory.
Okay.
I am, if all is one, then, okay, so the sages say that the universe or the cosmos is a sphere whose boundaries and circumference is boundless, okay, and whose center is everywhere. Okay. So with that way of thinking, then if there's only one I am presence, then everything is the center of the I am presence. So I can say I am that. Mm-hmm. And if I am that, then ultimately, not Brian D. Ridgway, whatever the hell that illusion is, but I, the real I behind it all, is the source of everything. Therefore, all those evolutionary processes, all the illusion of attraction, all the illusion of family, it's all actually emanating from me. I'm actually the prime mover behind all of it. I'm not the function of it. I'm not that which arises from it. I'm the emanator from which all those illusions arise. Mm-hmm. So if all is one, then there's no possibility that there's anything to attract anything else, because there isn't two that one could attract another. Those are all seemings. Those are all seemings to the conscious level that we're at based on the programming and the spells that we've adopted up until now. Right. So it creates a whole radically different perspective on every one of these topics. Right.
Yeah. Now, and it's interesting you're saying that, because I did one podcast on a young man by the name of Romano Golfin, and I think he's probably around 12 or 13 now, but his parents have been doing experimental learning since he was like a year and a half. This guy's been to CERN. He's been all around the world in all these different opportunities to experience physics. And one of the things that I really loved about what he said was he went to one of those places where you can experience skydiving called, what is it called? iSky or something to that effect. And as he's experiencing it, he comes out and he says, wow, that was incredible. That was his first statement. The second was, that's the most physics I've ever experienced before in my life. Because he really consciously felt the formulas, the mathematics that go into him being propelled upwards. And so that was one of those things that really crystallizes part of his being, part of who he was. So, you know, it's interesting how all that really kind of collides, comes together in that space.
Yeah. And all these topics, you know, when I stepped into this, like I call, just so that we have words, you know, we're all communicating with words. I call it the level 5 paradigm, which is simply the reality that all is one, and actually reshaping all concepts to fit within all is one. And I got to say this, you know, just taking a liberty, and this is your rodeo, right? I'm just riding along with you.
I'm enjoying the ride with you.
Okay, awesome. And you know, you grab whenever, rein me in as necessary.
Please.
So I yesterday I did a live stream, and one of the things that came out of me in response to something someone was saying was, virtually every spiritual person I know, virtually, no matter how famous, world famous, supposedly gurus on this or that, as well as all my spiritual friends, the norm is, to which there are very, very few exceptions, the norm is to talk out of one side of our mouth and say, all is one, everything is energy, and we're in infinite possibilities. And then immediately go out of the other side of our mouth talking about attraction and problems and challenges and scarcity. And it's like, wait, which one are you believing? And so until we have an organizing paradigm above it all, to which, like a yardstick or a compass, to which align all of our stuff, we really, people are just kind of winging it and flailing all over the place, back and forth, bouncing from oneness to duality, from scarcity to ideas of abundance. But above it all, I am. Above it all, within it all, and bring it all into being, I am.
Right.
And that negates and dissolves every illusion.
Okay. Well, now, so here's a question for you then on that point. How do you get people, it can be a complicated area to grasp. In other words, I have I use the monocle of Think Differently. One of my websites is called Think Differently. This one is Think Different Nation. And it requires that you really can think in a different way and become relaxed in moving in that direction. Because everything that we've learned, and I think you've referred to it before, everything we've learned has taken us in certain directions where we don't feel comfortable moving and thinking and learning in other ways. And maybe we don't have the orientation from which to go in that direction. So how do you actually work with people to help them to get the orientation so that really they have that base point from which you can move them forward?
In a way, I help them stop thinking at all.
Okay.
But not exactly. So one of the challenges, one of the opportunities and challenge-tunities that's always here is we're using the English language, okay? And I have not chosen to develop my telekinesis or teleportation or even just mind reading. I haven't chosen to develop that. And so I'm still using verbal language with people. And English might be the most hammer-handed or ham-handed tool for communication ever devised. Now, I'll make a super radical statement on the way. I have seen evidence that has led me to believe that the English language was intentionally created and devised to prevent us from being able to think or speak truth. And that's a crazy far out. What the hell? I mean, the research, and we could go down that topic at some other time.
Are you
So
specific to English or language in general?
English in specific, although there are roots in it that certainly has been, these experiments have been done in other ways.
Right.
One language for the nobility and one language for the commoners to create an endless, no matter the race, an endless race of slaves, soldiers, and servants, basically. And so that's on the way. So you and I are using the English language, right? We're bringing hams out where we really need scalpels and screwdrivers and fine instruments. And so I do what I can with it. What I help people to do is to move from thought to presence.
Okay.
And when they move from thought to presence, they're able to use thought rather than having thought use them. Virtually everybody that I know thinks they're thinking. And the smarter they are, the more convinced they are that they're thinking. But in reality, you could more accurately say that the thoughts are running them. Right. And things that they already think and believe that they know, endlessly running in circles and proving itself. Right. Because we're so powerful that whatever we think and believe that we know, we're just going to manufacture endless evidence without even knowing we're doing it and be convinced by our findings.
So you've been able to, or at least when the people that you work with, what's their transition look like? For example, when you first bring them on and they're new to the space, what's that path that you actually walk them through?
You know, I have many, and I will say this. I got to say that the majority of the people, the large majority of people who even stumble onto my work, there is no such thing, but even the majority of people who stumble onto it, they've been working on themselves for a long time, as a rule. The people who generally decide to go past my free stuff into my like lower level introductory stuff up into the really high work with me, virtually all of them have worked on themselves for a minimum of 30 years, as that's the norm. They have spent tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars literally trying everything, working on themselves, trying to fix everything, and their deepest pains and issues are literally untouched. And they're like, what the hell's going on here? Most people that have only been dabbling with self-help for a few years, maybe 10 years or less, they haven't even really noticed that nothing changed, because things like the law of attraction teach you that if you look and notice that things haven't changed, you're being negative and you attract more bad. So it's like a prison. It's really, in a way, almost a prison for the mind. I personally see that self-improvement is a prison for the mind. Self-improvement, the concept of self-improvement. So with all that said, the best way to answer your question, the transition, the majority of people find my book or some of my videos and they message me and say, I just got more out of your free stuff than out of all the stuff I ever paid for in my life. What the hell are you doing? This is totally different. And then some of them decide they want to go further. They join one, like I have paid group programs, and I have a group membership site that's automated, kind of like a landmark program called Conscious Creation. Okay. And so my book is called, it's called Break Your Self-Help Addiction, the 5 Keys to Total Personal Freedom. And our membership site is called Conscious Creation, Mastering the 5 Keys. So it's kind of like a graduation, of the book. And a lot of people will come out of those and want to do private sessions with me, or like the highest offering that I have, I work with people either for 3 months, 1 hour a week, or the highest level that hasn't happened in a couple of months. People actually pay a pretty decent chunk of money. They come out and spend 4 days staying with me in Hawaii. We work together 4 days and evenings, and then I spend 3 months of follow-up with them over video calls. And my aim is, in a way, I'll say I'm a one-trick pony. My one trick is I'm helping them go from thought to presence, and in presence they find that they can actually not only create their body and their health and their business and their wealth and their relationships, but they can actually remake the world they live in. And that's pretty much the sequence up. Understood.
So it's I've been listening to a number of the different YouTube programs and so forth, and I remember hearing several times about your story. Would you mind talking about that? And the next thing is, I'm curious about the process that you follow, and not just the normal process, but the internal steps that you carry out. I think of this, I do that. How do you understand what you're feeling? In other words, I think in terms of, and I apologize for the car. I think in terms of my five senses. Everything that I bring in to my space is through my sight, sound, touch, smell, hear. But I also have those six senses, those senses that we are, obviously they're the ones that are more the intuitive side, the clairvoyance, the telepathy, and so forth. So I'm wondering, what is your process and what are the senses that you're able to tap into to really get an understanding of the space that you're in?
Okay, wow, I dig that. So first, as far as the story, I have two stories, and the first one is that in the physical, I was born 1964, Columbus, Ohio, to an angry man and an unhappy woman with low self-esteem. The house was hell. There was no love, there was no warmth, there was no kindness, there was physical, mental, and emotional abuse. And for the first 17 years, I suffered. And then I came out of that with a self-image that was formed by that.
Okay.
And so my life was an absolute train wreck. And then 9 years ago, so I spent 30 years plus, over $300,000 that I documented and tracked when it was all said and done, tens of thousands of hours working on myself, self-help junkie, everything that they said, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Dianetics, Scientology. If they said it was going to make my life work, I didn't dabble because I was in too much pain. It was self-help wasn't a luxury for me. Then I got into practical self-help and started with Wayne Dyer. And then I went through everything Bob Proctor put out, like everything that Wayne Dyer ever put out, everything Deepak Chopra was putting out, everything Tony Robbins was putting out, Jim Rohn, like all the practical self-help into the spiritual, law of attraction, discovered Abraham Hicks and the idea of channeling and a law of attraction probably 12, 13, 14 years ago. And my life got worse and worse and worse, and I got more and more confused, and nothing was touching the deepest issues that I was facing, and I was getting so much conflicting information. And the law of attraction stuff was telling me not to deal with my trauma, not to think about it, just focus on what I want. I'd never seen that work, and I've never in my life seen it work. That not handling your stuff,
right?
I've never seen it
counterintuitive.
Yeah, and you know, listen, man, the day that I meet someone who tells me I follow the law of attraction or Abraham Hicks, I followed it to the letter, I never looked at my stuff, I never dealt with any of my trauma, and my life's perfect. The day that happens, I'm going to hire them to teach me because I've never seen it work. Okay, never seen it work. Now, that's story number one. Well, and it ends with 9 years ago, I had at the lowest point, I'd been suicidal on and off for years. I was at the worst place a human could reach. Wanted to end my life, but I had kids and I just couldn't do that to them. And I surrendered and I woke up, and I no longer is everything is one. It's not an idea to me anymore. The idea that everything is energy in a state of infinite possibility is not an idea to me anymore. It's my daily experience. And so the second story is, as a child, around 2 or 3 years old, I noticed that I would look at people and I could just see how they were holding themselves back. And I would talk to them and I could tell what they thought and what they believed and how they were holding themselves back and how they were suffering. And I could help them from a super early age, but I had no filter. So I basically looked at a person, I had unconditional love for them. I only wanted to help, and I would start helping. But they hadn't asked for my help. They didn't understand how someone that age could see through them and tell. So I had this like hellacious experience until the day that I realized, don't help until somebody asks. And I took a long damn time to figure that one out. Okay, so there's basically my stories. Today I have been helping. I've been able to track. We've touched over 125,000 people in 84 countries with my book and speaking live and all the events and Facebook lives and YouTube.
Okay.
And now the second question you asked, like what I see is very different. Almost the opposite of what you said that you perceive. So, but I relate and I don't dispute it. It's just that when you talk about like looking out with my senses and reading what's out there and I believe there's absolutely nothing out there whatsoever. What I perceive, the model of the universe that I have is, what if what I call the universe, including my body, which of course are the universe. What if what I call the universe is the reflection and the projection of everything that I think and believe that I know, the vast majority of which is hidden from me, by me in the unconscious, much of which is tangled up with emotions that I'm unconsciously, desperately defending, denying, repressing, suppressing. Now, the second or third time that I say it is when people actually start to get it. What if the universe is actually only and always the reflection and the projection of everything I think and believe that I know, the vast majority of which is hidden from me, by me, so I'm not aware of it, much of which is tangled up with emotions that I desperately don't want to feel, that I say ain't even there. I'm denying, no, I don't feel that, don't feel that, no, nothing, none of that trauma's there. And so that is endlessly projecting as what I call out there, but there's nothing out there that isn't the reflection, the projection of what's going on in here, because there's only in here. The universe is like an effective mirror of everything. So our senses, I would say, a completely turnaround, our senses are simply tools of perception that enable us to sense the bullshit that we believe and are thus projecting into seeming existence so that we can notice it and choose again.
So say that one again and change that one around.
Yeah, so just for example, like, okay, right now, whether have you ever heard of Ho'oponopono? Are you familiar with that? Okay, it's kind of famous these days. Joe Vitale, one of the teachers from The Secret, he teaches it. He wrote a couple books with a Ho'oponopono expert.
Okay.
And Ho'oponopono is an ancient Hawaiian approach to life. A lot of ways you could describe it, but in short, in simplicity, it is how to take total, complete, absolute, utter, limitless responsibility for your life and everything that shows up in it, even the stuff that you thought was outside of you. So one saying is, if you spot it, you got it. Okay. If anything, we've all heard probably that if you notice something in another person that bothers you, that's because you secretly know it's inside of you. You know, so these, but the thing is that there's something way beyond. When you include everything in this idea, everything changes, because you say, wait a minute. That means that if somebody shows up and stabs me in the back, rips me off, cheats me out of money, burns me, slanders me behind my back, or does anything that I don't like,
right?
It's actually part of me showing up to give me a chance to become aware that I believe that exists and that's part of my universe. So whereas at the kindergarten level of consciousness, we say, she left me and she broke my heart, she hurt me, or he took my money and pissed me off. But the fact of the matter is, no, I had sadness in me related to abandonment and feelings as a baby, and now those things are showing up as her lying to me, cheating on me, and leaving me, so that I will feel those feelings again. But if I look at her doing it and I say, oh, that bitch, or, you know, she did this, or it's her fault, she made me feel this, I prevent myself from taking responsibility and owning that it's emanating from me. She's a cell in my body showing me the feelings that I have. And if I'll look at it and say, how is this for me? Rather than why did she do this to me? And this guy who ripped me off and took my money and stabbed me in the back, that was supposed to be my friend, if I turn and look at that, and instead of thinking, oh, he did that and pissed me off, I say, wow, I wonder if some of this anger in me showed up as him doing that, so I'd finally feel this anger and heal it and release it, and those things never have to happen again. All the way out to multi-billionaires pulling off a fake virus.
Okay.
To justify locking people down and vaccinating billions of people and making trillions of dollars. If that shows up outside of me, it's actually emanating from inside of me, because there ain't nothing outside of me.
Okay. Well, so right along those lines, then, would you say, for example, that if I recognize what's happening with regards to that boyfriend or that partner, and I don't let it challenge me or cause me pain, that I'm handling it in the correct
No,
way?
not at all. No, not at all. No, not at all. Because you can't control whether you let it cause you pain or not, because nothing can ever cause you pain. It can only bring up the pain that was already inside of you.
Okay, understood.
So in a way, now listen, let's go all the way to the deep one time. So check this out. All right, the foundation of Western thought, the fundamental presumption of all Western thought is cause and effect. Like ultimately it's cause and effect. We're always a scientific method, which is utterly, ultimately bullshit and a delusion.
Okay.
Just like cause and effect. It doesn't exist. It isn't real. Now, wait, Brian, you're saying that the most foundational concept of all Western thought is utter, absolute, total, and complete bullshit. Yes, I am. Well, okay, Brian, prove it. All right. This causes that. This causes that. This causes that. Really? This causes that. This is because of that. Okay, then which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's absolutely, utterly, totally, and complete. It's ironic that everyone's been asked that question as a kid, and they went, I don't think I like that question. Can we talk about something else here? Every scientist, everybody goes, no, that's a great question. Now let's get back to our practical matters. What could be more practical than that question? Because the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg, when you look at it and you don't look away, you really don't have much of a choice but to eventually reach the place to say, neither of those could have possibly come first, which means that they had to arise simultaneously. Because the universe arises simultaneously. There is no cause and effect. So as much as, now I'm going to bring it back to what we were just talking about, really mundane. She did that and she made me sad. Well, is it possible that maybe her doing it didn't cause your sad? Is it possible that maybe your sad inside of you caused her to do that so that you could feel the sad? And maybe if we take cause and effect out of the picture, isn't it ultimately true that her doing it and your sad both showed up? So maybe if you walked up to the mirror right now, Ty, and you looked in the mirror, you wouldn't say, oh my God, look, I caused that. You would say, these are happening simultaneously. Well, what if everything happening is literally a mirror of what's happening inside? There is no outside. There's nobody in the mirror, dude. So the universe then is a mirror of what I think and believe that I know, the vast majority of which is hidden from myself by me. A lot of it's tangled up in emotion, so I'm very confused and I see a very skewed image, like walking around through a carnival of mirrors where one makes you bend this way and one makes you look fat and one makes you look short and one makes you look darker and one makes you look lighter and one makes you seem like an asshole and one makes you seem like a saint and one makes you... And so to come back to presence, all the mirrors go flat. It's all arising as reflections of the one. So I don't need to fight anything or correct anything.
Right.
And I can choose what I prefer.
Okay. So then for this particular, how do you say, trying to find the best way to put it in words, is this space or this philosophy something that's part of a particular dogma? Is it part of a...
Oh, it's the end of all dogma.
Okay.
It is the end of all dogma. For those who want it.
Right. How did you, and this goes back to that original question I'd asked, how do you actually experience it though? Is it, in other words, I look at the 37 plus different instincts that we all possess. And I look at it from the standpoint of the senses that you actually use to pick up on that particular instinct. And, people talk about, for example, the smell of fear. Does fear have a smell? Or the smell of play, or the taste? Do you feel anything with regards to that? Some musicians talk about experiencing music at a visual level, literally seeing colors and sounds. Yeah. How does that work within your space?
Yeah, I still have senses, and I see and I smell and I hear and I detect. Okay, I got something here that can help. All right, so this starts to go out of what the English English language can convey. However, we can go right to the edge.
Okay.
So if we analyze the electromagnetic spectrum of light, so we're going to talk about vision as a sense.
Okay.
Now, we don't realize that we're seeing with our ears, and we're seeing with our tongue, and we're seeing with our, we don't realize that there's only one sense ultimately, and that's the illusion of touch, because our eyes are touching the light and our ears are touching the sound waves and our tongue. Okay, so it's really touch, but let's just use vision as an example. So in the electromagnetic spectrum of light waves,
right,
the rods and cones of our physical eyeballs are capable of seeing a 5,000th of the spectrum, 1/5,000th. The bandwidth that we see from just inside of infrared to just right up to the edge of ultraviolet, that is a 5,000th of a percent that we can see. Shit. What? Wait a minute. That's almost unfathomable. We all think that we can actually think that and understand it. I propose that it's way beyond where any of us have ever let ourselves think, to actually find a way. It's like visualizing 50 trillion $1 bills. Damn, is that a truckload or is it a tanker load? So
I use that example as a matter of fact as well.
Awesome. It's a great example. So 5,000, that's not 1%. That's not a 10th of a percent or 100th of a percent. It's a couple zeros after the damn dot. A 5,000th of a percent is what we see, which tells instantaneously that the vast majority of that which there could be to be seen, we don't detect with our eyes.
Okay.
So what if there's a continuum? What if we don't have 5 senses? What if we don't have 7 senses? What if we have one sense that we have been programmed by a delusional, nefarious educational system, which originally emanated from us as part of our deciding to experience limitation? Ain't nobody doing nothing wrong right here. There's no conspiracy necessarily. It's what we wanted. We got born into a system that had that. But an educational system that once they said, how many senses do you have, Ty? And you said, I don't know. And they said, well, you have 5. Let me show you. Boom, boom, boom. And you said, oh, 5? And they said, oh, I put a gold star in your paper. Good boy. You did good. Now you're a good boy. Now you have an academic success. And now we like you and we're proud of you. And you went, ooh, I like this shit. So I'll agree with that 5 senses and whatever the hell else they sell me. But ultimately, maybe we have one sense.
Okay.
Maybe it's not this sense and that sense and this sense and this. Maybe there's a continuum of senses and we just never considered it that way.
Yeah.
And so that presence takes us out of that seemingly fragmented view to where something can be happening and we can literally sense, oh, there's an earthquake coming. But that's not an extra sense. That's actually tapping. Huh?
It's a normal sense, a very normal sense.
Right. What I would say is tapping into more of our sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
Not like an extra sense necessarily, or extra sensory according to who's programming, where we come up with this crap, you know? So yeah, I detect what everybody else does, and probably in some ways more and in other ways less.
Okay. All right. And so you've definitely been able to leverage that. If you identify what I would call your instinctive advantage way back when you had mentioned 9 years old or 2.
I was about 2 or 3.
Yeah, so that's something I would consider myself as an innovator. I put a series of ideas together with a series of processes to create solutions. And so mine has always been my observation, my curiosity. I've always observed everything and pulled out the finer details. Where I saw the atypical, I stored that. And so later on, I was able to pull from those atypical experiences and put them together for solutions. That's kind of how mine works. And, I was quite lucky to be able to identify it, because most folks operate on a daily basis without really having any sense of what they're doing on a conscious level. They simply move through space.
Yeah.
So
bouncing off of whatever they hit along the way.
Right. Exactly. So
often with bruises.
Sometimes you got to go through bruises to get through life. It's I'm working on that. I mean, we all go through our experiences, and I know this COVID-19 situation has been difficult. As mentioned, I see it as being a ladder of opportunity if you're successful in being able to survive through it, even if you're coming out financially broken. You know, I went through a divorce roughly 10 years ago. Yeah, starting around 2011, that was a level 5 divorce that destroyed everything. But eventually you go to the point where I want to minimize the pain. And then you can start to pivot and say, now I want to maximize the opportunity. And out of that came a company I built called Invest Out, where I partner homeowners who know their homes could sell for more if renovated with investors, flippers who go in there, do the renovation out of their own pockets. They never have to buy the property. And once the property sells, they get their money back, plus a good share of that additional profit. But it would not have come up as an idea, as a opportunity, if I were not going through a situation where I needed to get rid of my house, but I wasn't willing to let it go for pennies on the dollar. You know, so that's that whole chaos is a ladder. There are plenty of opportunities that you can find within the space.
Always.
Yeah. So where do you?
The greater the chaos, the greater the opportunity. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know some people would look at it and see it as being opportunistic. You're okay with that?
Yeah, like that's just an idiotic judgment, like every other idiotic judgment.
Yeah.
I mean, someone opportunistic. You know, the definition of manipulation, it's amazing how many people don't know this, but the definition of manipulation is to move around in the hand. And almost everybody's programmed to believe that manipulation is by nature unethical. So they hear the word and they cringe. Ooh, sleaze, greaseball. You know, manipulator. Manipulation means to move around the hand.
Right.
There's no judgment and no evaluation of it any more than there is to be an opportunist. But people who are trying to dissuade freedom have to mock any idea. Okay, so conspiracy, just to go there for a second. All right, well, there's been conspiracies. As long as there's been people who believed in scarcity, there's been people committing conspiracies. And if you talk about a conspiracy, they cleverly came up with a phrase to make you feel stupid or look stupid or get judged by people. If you talk about a conspiracy, your friends call you a conspiracy theorist because they're programmed with that phrase to ridicule you, just like we ridicule opportunism or manipulation or anything else totally unconsciously. No, there's nothing wrong with any of that. I mean, could someone be opportunistic in an unethical way? Of course. But that doesn't mean it's unethical.
And you use the word conspiracy, for example. The word actually is a Latin word. It means to breathe together. So, you know, you're coming together and breathing. If that's a conspiracy, then, you know, our Western culture has a different idea as to what it means versus the Latin original form.
Yeah, well, the programmers who take words, there's a book, and I always like to joke when I talk about this book. I always tell people, I do not recommend you go read this book because it will definitely hurt your brain, you know, but you might enjoy it. It's called Plastic Words.
Okay.
And I've never attempted to pronounce the author's name, and when you see the name, you'll know why.
Okay.
But Plastic Words, and it talks about how the controllers can use language as a tool for total control over the masses. And just like one word they talk about is conspiracy. Another one is development. Okay, so like development. You look at the rainforest. Oh my God, look at all that undeveloped land. I'm like, what the hell? That shit's been developed as perfect as it could ever possibly be. Undeveloped. The programming of these words that just, man, they take over the mind, and they're designed to take over the mind.
Yeah. Now, how do you navigate through that space, though? I mean, considering where we are, you know, I've got 2 daughters. I've got, you know, 2 girls who've decided at the age of like 16 and 18 that they don't want kids, you know, recognizing where we are within the world itself. How do you work with people to develop and to maintain a positive view towards our future
I don't
where we are.
I never concern myself with positive because I don't believe positive or negative exist other than as judgments in the mind. I know that virtually everyone around me does, and I don't judge it. I'm just saying, when I'm not helping people to solve their problems. I'm helping people to become totally free of the illusion of problems.
Okay.
And part of becoming free of the illusion of problems is to escape the trap of positive and negative, which is a delusional, judgmental thing. Everybody I know is trying to be positive. And that guarantees that you will ever be running from negative, but you can't be the arbiter of what's positive or negative, because sometimes the most beneficial thing that could happen to you, I didn't say positive, the most beneficial thing in line with what you prefer and what you ultimately want is the thing that you would have condemned as negative. And so you condemn it as negative, which prevents you from finding the gift in it. So it looks like a curse to you, and you perceive it as a curse, and no good can ever come out of something you've judged as bad. No positive can ever come out of something you've judged as negative. But you don't know, Ty, and I don't know, and I don't say this presumptively, we can't possibly know whether anything is positive or negative other than a damn terminal on a battery.
Right.
And that's not a judgment. That's a physical, okay, this is positive, the electrons flow out this way, they flow in that way. Positive, negative, that's all it means. When we go talking about being positive, we're in opposition to how the universe works, because there is no opposite dichotomy. So how I help people navigate it, I help them go beyond the illusion of problems. I help them go beyond the concept of positive and negative into presence.
Okay.
And presence never has a problem or a judgment or a question. It sees what is, and it chooses what it prefers next, guided by inspiration at all times.
So then how does that type of a thought process or a viewpoint work in a world with COVID-19 where we are isolated, we are further distant than we've ever been before? Understanding the opportunities that exist, but also looking at where people are oftentimes in their worst places, considering the fact that we're social animals and we don't have that opportunity to be social, to touch, to connect.
Yeah, well, I gotta, we're dealing with English again.
Okay.
And I'm never disputing. One of the things I say to my clients, because they bring me all kind of stuff, and I say, listen, I'm never correcting. I'm always reflecting. I'm going to reflect back to what you said, and I'm going to reflect back to you. By reflecting what you said, I'm going to reflect what you think and believe that you know and what you feel that you're probably not in touch with. So I'll reflect it back, and then you can judge again or choose again more accurately, right? Okay. So you say we're the most distant we've ever been. I say that's 100% of perception. I'm not insensitive to the perception, and I'm aware that someone who hasn't been diving into these concepts is probably perceiving very strongly that they're separate and that they're distant. But that doesn't mean it's true. It's still just a perception. So how do I apply if I sum up my principle as, don't try to fix anything, don't believe there's problems, don't believe there's actually, if you become present, you discover, oh, I am, and these are the circumstances. What do I prefer now? Without making it positive so that it's okay for me to want it.
Mm-hmm.
Without making it right or better so that it's okay for me to want it. You guys, I know you guys see me choosing this, but I'm only doing that because it's better and positive and right, okay? So we're trying to avoid trouble with our parents and we don't even know we're doing it. So without needing to make it right or better or positive in order for it to be okay for me to want it, when I sit here in the midst of this contrast that I find myself in right now, what do I prefer to experience next?
Mm-hmm.
We're told that's selfish, but you're the damn self.
Right.
You are the self. How could you not be selfish? When they told us the manipulation, all this other shit was wrong, man, boy, they just beat that self. Don't you dare be selfish. Let me be selfish. You can't be selfish, because if you're selfish, kid, I won't be able to be totally selfish. So I need you to not be selfish so that we can be selfish as adults. Okay? We can get what we want. So it's all insanity. It's all craziness. But presence, when you become presence, when you choose to tap into your true self, you don't have the concept of selfish. You don't have the concept of selfless. You don't have the concept of right or wrong or good or bad or better or worse or positive or negative. You simply see what is, and you say, what would I prefer next? Okay. And when you're coming from presence, what you prefer next will always be the most beneficial for all concerned. Every time, without you trying to figure it out or think about it or solve anything.
Okay. Interesting.
You can only be totally selfish or selfless when you're totally selfish. There's this crazy dichotomy that doesn't really exist.
Yeah, I'm understanding what you're saying. It's a deep concept. You know?
Yep, all the way deep.
So when did you begin to actually grasp it? You said you had a transformational moment where you had the clarity.
Yeah, I had these mental ideas like everybody that I know. Everybody that I know not everybody has these ideas, but like everybody around me, I had these ideas for many years, 30 plus years of self-help, 30 plus years of spiritual study, and being disillusioned again and again to find out that the author of the book telling me about presence and all that shit wasn't living it at all. He was reading Buddhist texts or whatever and then transcribing it in order to sell books and make money, and so I beat up myself for not being able to get it. I beat up I remember God 25 years ago reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and wanting to kill myself because I could never be that high in integrity. I couldn't even dream of getting to the place of integrity that he was pointing to. So what happened was I learned more, I surrendered more, I learned more, I practiced more, I learned more, I experimented more. Everything failed, everything didn't work. My deepest emotions were still there. And the only answer is absolute, utter, total, and complete surrender, which while they were pissing all over, forgive my French, while they were pissing all over manipulation and conspiracy and all these other wonderful perfections, boy, oh boy, did they do a job on surrender.
Yeah.
Okay, but to surrender to your perfection, to surrender to the oneness where all love and joy and peace and power originates from, to surrender to truth, you don't lose. There's no such thing as sacrifice. There's no such thing as loss. And so in a moment when I finally hit so-called rock bottom, which everyone else would have called negative and the worst, when I finally surrendered all these things that I looked at, see, I had reached a point, Ty, I had reached a point in my life where I said, I am innocent, basically, of every charge the universe has leveled against me. I'm doing my best. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've spent tens of thousands of hours. I've read every book and I've gone to every course and I've gone to every seminar. I've done every damn thing that they told me to do. And none of it has worked. I give up. And I mean, my surrender was complete. The next day I was going to be back homeless on the street in Van Nuys, California again. And I had no hope. I had burned every bridge. Every option was completely gone. And when I surrendered this time, I killing myself wasn't an option, having kids. I just sat there and I said, okay, what? And I surrendered and I listened and I woke up and the idea that everything is one, I saw it. All that stuff that you're talking about, all those billions of years of evolution, I realized that it all had totally emanated from my imagination and that it was my creation, really my imagination, my reflection. The idea that everything is energy and the idea that we're in a state of infinite possibilities. And this, in a way, it was almost like words. There is no way in English to say this, but it was as if a phrase was spoken in me, this ultimate realization. Only when you resist, only when you release all resistance and judgment to what is, you find yourself able to change anything and everything. When you release all resistance to what is, being that what is only that which arises from everything I think and believe that I know, the vast majority of which is hidden from me, by me, mangled up and tangled up with emotions that I don't want to feel. When I release my resistance to what I am ultimately the source of, the war stops and anything and everything can change beyond my wildest imaginings and dreams, no matter how big or hopeless it may seem. And I just snapped completely out of it. I literally, all my bridges were burned. I had no hope. When I had this awakening experience, it was so incredible. I instantly got this notice, just, okay, go check your computer. I went and checked my computer. It was an email from someone that I knew that owned a $14 million company. He had done $14 million online. He had a multi-billion-dollar idea. I had seen his stuff, and I had made a video just describing how amazing I thought I wanted to be an affiliate of it. Somehow this guy had, while I'm sitting at the pool surrendering and at this little tiny pool at this dumpy ass motel that I was about to be kicked back out on the street the next day, while I'm sitting there having this awakening experience, he sends me an email. He found a video that I had made on YouTube and said, I want you to take over my company. Could you do it immediately? 8 days later, I was on an all expense paid cruise in the Bahamas, and 67 days later, I was living the dream in Hawaii. Okay, I got catapulted out of hell. 46 years of hell in a minute by completely surrendering and waking up to this ultimate reality behind reality.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing though, you know, and I'll be honest with you, as mentioned, you know, going through my divorce, I could have never said I have to surrender and lay prostrate on the ground, because we're not wired to surrender. I mean, that's part of our DNA, survival, you know, so to give up.
But are you sure of that? Are you sure of that? Are you absolutely positive beyond the shadow of a doubt?
I don't know if I want to be. I've gotten this far by not surrendering, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, because I understand what you're saying, but when it comes time to releasing, you know, where I would say we're always told to drive, to move, to never surrender.
I agree.
So it's going against everything that we're told as far as
I agree.
Even a human, you know.
I agree. And everything we've ever been told was based on the lie that we're separate beings in a physical universe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the same people that taught us to never surrender are the same people who told us sit down, shut up, and we'll program you with what to believe and how to think and how to live your life. And virtually everybody's miserably dying, living lives of mass misery. Virtually everybody, even the ones who we think aren't.
Right.
And so there was something really profound, something you said there when you said to lay down, you know, like I didn't want to die. I didn't want to lay down, but I didn't die when I surrendered.
Right.
I started living.
But consciously getting into that place, you surrendered because you had no option, or did
That's right. That's exactly right. And I don't believe that it has to be that way. I do not believe that it has. I've helped a whole lot of people to have their awakening experience without them having to hit rock bottom. And I've had a lot of people that have come to me at rock bottom. I don't believe it's necessary to hit rock bottom to surrender. I believe that what is required to surrender is to wake up and realize that it's the only sane thing that we can do. And I believe that millions and millions and millions of people have brought up this bullshit virus scam that's about infinitely more than a virus, and lockdowns and the threat of mandatory vaccinations and the threat of being stuck at home for 2 years while they roll out 5G, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whatever it's all about. Ultimately, we will literally
5G.
Huh?
You're connecting it to 5G. Interesting.
I'm not. Here's what I'm saying. Some people have said that 5G is causing the virus, and I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is it's rather interesting that, okay, I've been following conspiracy. I've been following government conspiracies. I've been following false flags for about 30 years. And I have seen that whenever there's something coming to light that the public's becoming aware of that they didn't want us to know about, they always bring on a disaster. It's standard right out of the rule book of how you play. And during a time that the international top level elite Hollywood and governmental and church pedophilia ring was coming into light, and Jeffrey Epstein, you know, either didn't kill himself or he's still alive. At the time that was coming to light, and at the time that millions and millions of people were beginning to rally, we don't want 5G until it's tested. While those things were happening, a global virus comes on the scene and everybody's terrified, and everybody's being forced to isolate and wear masks and stay away from each other on their computers while they're also rolling out artificial intelligence. That's a darn heck of a coincidence that those things would all happen simultaneously. Gosh. And then when I discovered that not one additional person has died in the last 3 or 4 months over year-to-date norms, not one. It's a scam. The entire thing is a scam beyond our wildest dreams, but I don't consider that a bad thing. And I'm not scared of it. It's exactly what we brought into our field when we're at the point that it's time to surrender. We make something bigger and scarier than we think we can handle. We either fight against it, or we fear it, or we end up surrendering ultimately.
So, and that creates a challenge though of what do you believe? You know, I mean, how do we operate in a space where we don't know what we can believe? We don't know what we can, outside of relying on ourselves, we don't know where we can turn for the correct information.
The answer is presence, because presence doesn't need to believe anything in order to always know exactly what to do. Presence is the ultimate, people would call it the connection to the one, but the idea of connection to the one is a universal spiritual idea that keeps everybody from realizing that there is just one. There is no connection in one. One isn't connected to one, it's just one. So I would say it's when you surrender to your infinite self, you are always tapped into infinite eternal inspiration. You said that you kind of dig Think and Grow Rich. I have no use for Napoleon Hill or any of his work, and I know that millions and millions and millions of people do. I ain't saying it's bad or wrong or anything else. I'm just saying it certainly contains fragments of truth. And I'll point to one of the fragments, which is he talks about infinite intelligence. The entire universe is made of infinite intelligence. It isn't something separate from us. So I can use his phrase. When we surrender to infinite intelligence, we don't have to believe anything or know what to believe, because we're always tapped into the one infinite inspiration and intuition that guides everything perfectly always. There's no need to believe anything or think anything or have any book knowledge of any kind on any topic when you're present.
Gotcha. Understand. That's heavy. That's really heavy.
It's heavy stuff, man.
You know, well, I mean, let me pivot if you don't mind a little bit. I'm curious as to how you were able to build such a successful model, a business model, and you have your differentiating points between some of the other law of attraction businesses or consulting or coaching. So can you kind of elaborate on that? How did you actually go and scale your business to be where you are today?
Believe it or not, this is going to start to sound familiar. Presence.
Gotcha.
When the day that I listened, so I had that awakening experience, and the guy that said, "Hey, could you take over my company?" I helped him for about 6 months.
Okay.
And after about 2 months, I realized he was not going to deliver on his promises to me or to the people I was bringing to him. And I stopped bringing people to him, and I continued to help him personally, not help his business. In conscience, I couldn't help his business anymore. He wasn't going to come through on his promises. And so every morning I could say, to a very, very literal extent, I woke up every morning and said, do I help him for another day, or am I done? What's next? And for a few months, it was another day, help him another day. One day I woke up and I got it. That was it. You've provided the help. You can provide him. It's time to do what's next. And I said, okay. It's almost as if a conversation with the universe, because that's the only words I can use that would make any sense. I tapped in. Okay, what do I do next? And the universe lovingly went, dude, what have you been doing since you were 2 years old? What did you just do for the last 4 months with him? Do that. And I said, okay, how? And I sat and I had, I guess most people would call it a vision. I saw the hundreds of millions of people on the planet right now, transcending religion, frustrated with the law of attraction, confused about this, all of them in effect praying for the answer. In effect, some of them quite literally sitting praying. I saw and felt, because every human being is a cell in the one body of the one, and we're one. And when we're not thinking and trying to figure it out and wondering what to believe, we feel everybody else as clear as a bell. And I could feel, Brian, we are waiting for you. That thing you've been doing since you were 2 or 3. We that are communicating, we're waiting for you to get off your ass and come share that level 5 stuff with us and show us how to become present and stop thinking and stop wrestling and get beyond self-help. I saw it and felt it. I didn't imagine it or try to visualize it or hope for it or anything else. It just, this is what is. They're waiting for me to bring this to them. A certain percentage of the people on the planet are waiting for this information. And I've been listening and acting on that ever since, without a plan, without a strategy. And here we are.
Yeah, see, and I think about that. What was the movie? I forget the name of it, but where the gentleman said, Russians don't take a dump without a plan, you know. I think about all of my ventures, where I've been, some of the things I've developed, and the things I try to position forward. I always have to have a plan, because without a plan, I have no clarity as to the steps I need to follow to actually accomplish whatever plan that I've laid out. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's a successful plan. I'm just saying,
the oldest joke, Ty, if you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason for that joke right there, because as humans, listen, if you literally make your 10-year plan and you buy the land and you build the house and you map it out and you hire the best teams and you have the best home builder and you have the best this and you have the best contractor and you buy steel and heavy wood and you build your house and a plane crashes on it the next day, it's just as gone as if you didn't have a 10-year plan. So I'm not against plans by any means whatsoever. If inspiration ever leads me to a plan, I'm going to follow it to the letter.
Gotcha.
But plans, I got something really crazy to say here. So I'm just going to go out on this limb. Check this out. This people really a lot of times mentally wrestle with this. So there was a Buddhist master. I'm not a Buddhist by any means. Truth is wherever you find it. Who said Zen is above morality, but morality is not below Zen. And his monks were supposed to follow it. So it's kind of like a riddle in a way. And I looked at it and I contemplated it. And here's what I propose it is saying. Zen, total presence, transcends all morality. When you are in Zen, you are moral beyond moral. No one has to teach you anything or anything. But morality is not below Zen. In other words, you can't become moral enough to reach Zen. When you are in Zen, you are beyond morality. Similarly, I will say, presence is above plans. Okay. But plans are not below presence.
Understood.
Because when you're present, you are the plan. You're part of the infinite plan, and you're always inspired perfectly in the plan that's beyond our wildest thoughts and imaginings. But when you're planning, you might just be in direct opposition to the larger plan and get your teeth kicked in and not have a clue about it because you're busily trying to follow the plan.
Well, so let me break it down then to that lower level of detail. When you decided I'm going to start my business, or I'm going to start doing this myself, you must have said, or you could have said, possibly, what do I do? What's the first thing that I do?
I did. And instead of planning, I received an instantaneous signal, do a webinar and invite those people.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, listen, I'm not saying this is true. I'm just proposing it.
Understood.
And it's my experience that it is true. When I'm trying to plan, I'm tapping into my paradigms, my programming, my pre-existing practices, and all the bullshit I ever bought in my mind and accept it as true. I'm going to draw from that to make my plan.
Understood.
I can't not. But when I'm coming from presence, I'm coming from presence, infinite intelligence guiding in its perfection. There can never be any doubt or any missteps.
Okay. It's hard to get there.
It's impossible to get there. You just gotta let go and realize you're already there.
You gotta be there.
Yeah, you're there. You're there. When the minute you want to be, you go, wait,
Yeah.
I was always here. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I've got to pick up your book. I've got to pull your book and read through it so I can have a better understanding, because I'm looking for that clarity. I'd asked you, I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I'd asked you, do you have any ideas or suggestions for me starting out in this space, with regards to trying to communicate a message and trying to connect with people on areas where they may want to try to improve the efficiencies, the abilities within their life?
Yeah, and this might sound really self-serving, except for the fact that it's all free.
Right.
Start with my book.
Gotcha.
And I wrote the book that didn't exist during the 30 years that I was involved in self-help.
Understood.
I wrote the book that had in it what none of the books that I read on my 30-year self-help journey had in them. And so, like, there's a reason why, with no marketing, this thing has almost 300 5-star reviews on Amazon, and people are saying it's changed their life. So the book, you can get on Amazon for a few bucks, but it's free on my website. We're keeping it free for a little bit longer on breakyourselfhelpaddiction.com. And it comes with several videos. At the end of every chapter, you can click the link in the book and it'll take you to a video page where I'm either working with you on processes to help you come into total presence, or you'll actually see me doing a spell break with someone else. And by simply watching as if I was working with you, you will have a similar breakthrough to what they did.
Gotcha.
And that alone, I mean, that'll really move you more. You apply it 100%, it'll move you forward more than you probably would expect from a free book and some free videos.
Gotcha. Beautiful. Now, what about Audible? Is it available in audio?
So if you go to our website where the book is available for free, right after you get the book, you get an invitation to get the audiobooks. I made 5 versions of the audiobook. And like, we'll probably sell that on Audible later for 60 or 70 bucks. I made 5. Right now it's $11.11. It's available for $11.11 on our website.
Gotcha. Beautiful.
And there's 5 versions of it. I did this book so that you could literally reprogram yourself with the book. So I made a version where I'm just reading the book from start to finish. Then I did one where I'm reading it chapter by chapter, broken up chapters. Then the third version has an alpha wave track behind it. So while you're listening with headphones, it's literally going into your cells at alpha. I made a Schumann resonance. So the resonance of the heart and the earth, you can listen to it while the Schumann resonance is going into your cells. And then the final 5th version is with delta waves. So you can actually listen to the audiobook while you're sleeping. The delta waves will help you to get to sleep and stay asleep. And that just drills this level 5 awareness into your cells. Nothing like it's ever been done.
Yeah, that's boundary spanning. So I look forward to that. I'm definitely an Audible guy. I do my 5-mile run and my 5-mile walk. That is, being honest with you. I listen to my audiobooks. That's been quite a staple for me.
Nice. Yeah, I love it too. I have thousands of hours of my life listening to audiobooks.
Great.
Yeah. So beautiful, man. Well, I trust that this interview will touch and help those that are ready to hear it and got something out of this.
Beautiful. Yeah, I truly appreciate you coming on board and speaking, because it's after reading your site, I was able to gain some valuable insights, and just the energy you were kicking off was just tremendous. So I definitely appreciate your time, Brian. And I will be touting you across the world.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And